Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today we are talking to the phenomenal Tracy Ellis Ross, who is going to have a conversation with our members dealing with hair, which is the topic of her upcoming Onyx Collective series called The Hair Tales. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members who are on the call today, starting with our facilitator, Katia Woods in Philadelphia, Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Kim Singletary in New York, New York, Dana Abercrombie in New York, New York, Ray Cornelius in Atlanta, Karan Lenoir in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we'll also have Rhonda Rasha Penrice joining us from Atlanta shortly. I'm going to let you ladies and gent, do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, Gil.
It can feel like it's just a conversation about hair, but it's not. It never is.
Braided locks.
Twist out.
Hot comb.
Resilient. Black hair is both stigmatized and celebrated.
It's our crown, right?
I learned early on that straighter was better.
It reminds me of our ancestors and how our hair was meant to be tied down.
During the Great Migration, Black people were straightening their hair because they needed jobs.
So much of our hair truths are attached to so much trauma. To just know that the hair that was growing on my head was not socially acceptable was devastating.
We really are beautiful, but it's like, how much could we explore of ourselves if we didn't have to take so much time unlearning what we were taught?
Hair Tales is using hair as a metaphor for us to be with the humanity of us as Black women.
When I was 13, my mother threw me a surprise pool party. I was paralyzed because my hair will get wet and they will know the truth about me, that I'm Black. And my mother, she said, baby, they know. Black hair is art.
Telling your narrative and telling your story.
It's so hard to tame and control, but that's how I am.
We all want to be free. She's ready.
Our hair is us.
You do not need hair to wear a crown.
I feel like it's a gift.
Let the beauty out. Let the beauty out.
Hello, Tracy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I found the series very interesting because it really reminded me of conversations that I have with my friends about hair. And one thing that I found is that my circle of friends tend to envy each other's hair. Like I have a friend who has your texture of hair. And at some point I would say, wow, I wish I had the hair because it was like a wash and wear hair. She soon corrected me, but I found out that she also envied my 4C hair because, she felt it was thick, I could do more with it. So my question to you is, what Black woman's hair do you admire that has a different texture from yours? And why do you think it's beautiful?
It's interesting. I discovered my own beauty in my own texture because of those with tighter textures. And that was sort of my entranceway in to the possibility and the different styles I could wear. And it was where I found a connection to my own legacy. So specifically, what other humans, is that what you're asking? Whose hair I love? Kim, is that what you were asking?
Yes. And,
Yeah.
and that's different from your texture. And why do you think it's beautiful?
I love Issa's hair, and I love all the things that she does with her hair. I'm obsessed. I know these are people we interviewed, but maybe that's part of why we sort of entered in with them. But like Marseille, who I call Kayla, I'm always blown away by the different ways that she wears her hair. Cicely Tyson was one of my original, the artistry that she, hold on, I'm gonna close the non-video participants so that I can see you better because you're teeny. Okay. Cicely Tyson was one of the original women, the original sort of forgers of those incredible hairstyles. I've always been a lover of cornrows, but I don't know that there are specific people that I'm trying. Solange was one of the people that originally gave me courage, honestly, to wear my hair in different ways. Like I didn't see as much of that growing up. You know, when I was growing up, if I think of, I mean, I could name on my hand, you know, there was Cicely Tyson, she was before my time, but Diane Carroll and all of them, they didn't wear their hair naturally in natural texture. So it was Nena Cherry, Raydon Chong, Lisa Nicole Carson, Cree Summer, Lisa Bonet. I mean, there was a small handful of people that were wearing natural textures. So I didn't have like all these different spaces to see. I had my family, but as a teenager, you're not looking to your family. I mean, I remember people are like, did your mom, you know, help you love your hair? I'm like, yeah, but you don't want to do your hair like your mom. Like when you're a teenager, you're looking like out there, you know, trying to get the styles that you should be doing and all that. And I saw mostly straight hair. So as I've gotten older, now I see, and even now, honestly, social media is so amazing to me because I don't know if you follow, but I follow so many of these like Black Archives and the African Archives one. And then there's one that's just like, it's called Inheritance. And it's just incredible, the beauty of our hair and what it can do. And my hair can't always do those things. And I do. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I could, you know, try different things that styles that I can't always do easily and naturally on my own. But I think that's also part of what we do within our community. I know it was talked about in the series, but this idea that, you know, oh, well, that looks beautiful on you, but I couldn't do that. You know, that won't work on my face. Like, oh, I wish I was a person who could shave my hair off or whatever those things are. And I feel like I hope that part of what we start to do more of within our community is be inspired by each other instead of being envious of each other.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Tracy. Ray Cornelius here out of Atlanta. Was there a moment or an event that you know, that sort of changed, I guess, the way that you wanted to wear or do your hair? Because when I look back at your modeling days, your hair was straight. And
sometimes
then
it was straight, sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah. And then we moved as you got a little bit older, we started seeing more of the waves and the curls. But was there an exact moment where you were like, look, this is what it is, this is what it's gonna be? And
no, because it was such a hair discovery and journey for myself. I mean, you know, on Girlfriends, that was, you know, that was a big moment because I had nursed my hair back to health. During the modeling years, I didn't have enough power or enough agency within myself or confidence to tell people what they could and couldn't do to my hair. So I would do what they did. And often they were just burning my hair within an inch of its life, you know? And I was also coming off of being a kid that relaxed my hair and went to the salon like every kid did, you know? I mean, not every kid, that's not true, but like so many of us, you know? And so I had gone through a journey after the modeling of really, like, it happened in high school, and I tried, I don't know if you guys saw, but I posted in my story the other day a picture of me when I was 18 in Paris. And someone was like, your hair looks so amazing. I was like, did it though? You know, because you can tell that I was growing out my relaxer, and you could tell that my curls hadn't quite found their way yet. And they had been so used to having heat on them, etc. So there was not a particular moment, Ray, that happened. And I'm still going through that for myself. It changes all the time. But what I have done for myself is change my relationship to my hair. You know, my hair can do anything now. And that's because I take care of it and I use the right products, and I can advocate for my hair, and I can go onto a set and say, no, not doing that. You know, the last 2 movies I've done wigs. Is that true? No, I did wigs, a wig on one, and then I braided my hair because I wanted my hair to be in a style that for continuity purposes, we're not going to require somebody to keep somebody I didn't know that I was just coming in a short period on these last 2 films, that they were actually not going to damage my hair. I mean, at this point, now I'm actually a CEO of a hair company. Like, I'm very clear about what you can and can't do to my hair. I'm like, that ain't happening. Sorry, But so there's not a specific moment, and to me, it's like an ever evolving journey, and that's so much of what I hope Hair Tales does, that the Hair Tales kind of offers us a place, a context for so much of our humanity. I didn't get to say this here because you guys have mostly seen it, but it's an intimate and intentional discovery, exploration, and celebration of the humanity of Black women told through the metaphor of our hair, using hair as an organizing principle. I believe that hair is like a portal into our souls. And it is that because it's how we have had to overcome so much of what is coming at us from the outside, but also because hair care is self-care. And it's one of the ways that we honor ourselves. There's a ritual with our hair. It connects us to our legacy. It connects us to our history. It connects us to our community and our family and our own personal stories. And so the hope was that the Hair Tales was a space that we could enter and be the center of what we are talking about, that we could be joining the stories of our hair and our humanity from a place of joy, from a place of celebration, instead of what is always and often expressed about us through the lens of struggle and hardship. That is a part of the experience, but it is not the whole picture. And if we can look at our experience from that place, and that this show could be a love letter, I'm hoping that other young people or old people or in between people or whatever people can start to have a different relationship to their hair than I had, and then so many of us had.
Thank you so much. And I love what you're doing right now.
I'm obsessed. I don't even know what to say, but like, it's a heart, and I keep pushing it up like this because then you actually see the heart. I can't take it. It's so cute. I hate it. I mean, I love it so much that I hate it. Okay.
Hi, Tracy. Carolyn first. Here's what happened in Carolyn Talks podcast. Thank you so much for talking with us and for creating this show. What was interesting to me is that this show does feature, like, all of the people that you interview are celebrities and they're actresses in Hollywood. And I think what this film will help a lot of people who aren't familiar with how the industry operates is that Black female actresses do have struggles with maintaining healthy hair within the industry because there's no one qualified enough.
There are some, but there's wonderfully qualified
very few. But there's very few. And one of the things that is addressed in the discussion that you have with the one with Marseille, and then also there's a discussion with the ladies in the salon, where one of them, who's a hairdresser in Hollywood, talks about how the difficulties that women have. And I saw that this could be a way for women outside the industry to realize that Black women within the industry have to advocate for their hair itself. They have to advocate for their presence on screen, but also advocate for their hair to be cared for and to be the way it's supposed to be. Do you hope that is one of your hopes for this show to start to be as a kind of like a launching pad for changing Hollywood itself, for there to be a better way for Black female and Black hairstylists in general to have better access within the industry, because there's so many roadblocks to Black hairstylists to even getting jobs within the industry so that they can do the work that Black female actresses need?
I'll say this. That is not the point of this docuseries. Is a love letter to Black women. If that is a byproduct, that would be a great check in our box. In terms of Black hairstylists, it's not that it's hard to get the job, it's hard to get in the union. And that's one of the problems in the industry. And that's something that people are really working on. It's also a real problem that all hairstylists aren't taught how to do all kinds of hair, because a Black stylist is taught how to do other kinds of hair that are not that kind of hair that grows out of their head, but everybody else is not taught in the other direction. And that is not an equal playing field. And that's part of the reasons we talk about DEI. It's not diversity and inclusion only, it's the equity part of it, because that's where we start to fundamentally change the system that is holding us up. So I do, I hope that there's a lot of different byproducts from this show, but the intention was not to change the industry. The intention was not to educate. The intention was to celebrate and to create a space, a safe space of love and conversation and dialogue and connection where we could not only see ourselves, but have a sense of identification, and that this is a show about Black women, but it's for everyone. Because I think everyone needs to have deeper compassion, deeper respect, and deeper understanding about the beauty and power of Black women. And also, I think there's a lot of universal and timeless themes that run outside of just the Black community. Because there is a way that the beauty industry, that patriarchy, that racism has left a lot of people out, not just Black people. And there's a way that we can all identify and hopefully create a space where we can love on each other and advocate for each other with a lot more courage, because we see how much we are the same.
No, I agree completely. And thank you so much. Because the first episode of Ayanna Preston, my hair is short and I do have some in my hair. So like that one really like got me emotional because it was like, yes.
I actually cried during that interview. I actually couldn't I cried during the Oprah interview too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Now that I think about it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you.
First off, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody on this call. Everybody on this call has some beautiful, authentic Black hair. I feel like I'm a little unprepared for this. You all look fantastic. But to my question, sometimes I don't know, to me, it feels like the world at large sometimes goes out of its way to marginalize women or women of color being their authentic selves. You mentioned how Solange was an influence for you or an inspiration. And I remember she had that experience a few years ago where she did that magazine shoot for Evening Standard magazine and her hair was cropped off.
I remember that. That was a little while ago.
Yeah, yeah. With all of these powerful experiences affecting Black women at large, I'm just curious, how can Black men or just men help to further the acceptance of the Black woman's crown?
Give us the do we're due. I mean, I think there's a way that we all need to advocate for each other. I think the biggest thing that just pops off the top of my head is that we are more than our hair, we are more than our bodies, we are more than the parts of us. We are whole beings that have minds and hearts and ideas and thoughts and power and beauty and all of that. And objectifying us to one piece or another does not help the reality and the truth of who we are. And I think that also language is really important, and how we speak about our sisters and our fellows is a part of it. And I think that was one of the things that I really was moved by. I obviously was in the interviews and wrote those questions and thought deeply. I mean, one of my favorite questions of this series, I actually think we cut the question out, but the answer was there, was to Ayanna, which was, teach me about your freedom. That being said, the language that I heard from the scholars and the academics really moved me and changed. There were thoughts and feelings that I had, but I was given new language for feelings that I had. And so I think for all of us advocating for each other, but particularly Black men advocating for Black women, the language that you use and how we speak about each other is incredibly important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Tracy. Kathy Woods here with Couple Soul Show, the Philadelphia Tribune.
Hi.
One of the things that I observed is that you spoke to mainly celebrities. And did you think about how that would be perceived? Because there's a certain privilege that you have as a celebrity.
What do you mean we spoke to mostly celebrities?
I mean, like the primary conversations were had with women that have access to certain things that the everyday woman does not.
Mhm.
And yet, you know, Black women getting their hair done, as my sister Karan explained to me, is $1 billion business. And many of us don't have good relationships with going to the salon and are still, there's a lot of anti-Blackness within ourselves as a community that we have towards hair. So can you explain a little bit about why that was not included? Because there's a very
What, but
big
I'm not
thing.
sure I understand why what wasn't included.
I mean, I think like my experience as a regular 9 to 5 girl with getting my hair done, my hair journey is a little bit different. Like for instance, when I hear
But did you watch the entire show?
I did, and I still feel as though that the everyday woman's voice was not as strong than women who are at a higher tax bracket and have a higher, but yet the demand for us to look like we have 6-figure salaries
But
is just as
so the
strong.
salon, so you didn't feel represented in a whole because the notable person was the name that we hear?
Yes, I do think it's a very different point of entry, and I'm just curious for that production choice.
Well, I think some of it is the fact that it's a television show, and there's certain things that when you're creating a show, you have to take into account. But it is not a celebrity show, and it is not a celebrity interview show. There are academics and scholars that are interviewed, and we're also in the salon to create a full picture. But the notable story, the notable person is where we centered that. And I think that that was more, those women, yes, are in a higher tax bracket, but they are also Black women. And my experience in listening to their stories was that they are identifiable across the board. I don't think Ayanna Presley's hair tale about her birthday party that her mother threw her is one that had anything to do with her financial background. And same thing with Marseille when she shared her story about being a little girl and seeing her student friends. That's a story that has nothing to do with the career that she has. It's about the experience that she had as a little girl. And I also think of, for me, while we were editing, I was looking at, I kept writing down some of the quotes that I heard because I was so moved by them. Many of them came from Elle Moxley. I noticed when I looked back at the document that I wrote, there were like 4 different quotes from Elle Moxley that I was so moved by. So I do think that the Black experience is varied. It has a myriad of different voices and colors and sizes and shapes and textures and patterns. And I think in a 6-part documentary, it's hard to cover every angle. But I think the intention was really a love letter that expressed as much of the expansiveness of who we are as possible. And I'm sorry if you didn't feel like every aspect of what you wanted to see was there. And maybe if we get a season 2, we can do a better job of kind of making a better balance there.
Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition, thank you for doing this. What I loved is Black people are not a monolith, but there's a lot of shared experiences, even though we come from all different places. I wanted to know from you, was there a story that resonated the most with you that you carry on within you and also apply? You're now a CEO of a hair company.
Yeah, I think that was the most special part of creating and doing this show is finding so much comfort in the shared experience. Discovering that so many of us are hurt by the same things. So many of us find shame in the same spaces. So many of us have a scissor story. So many of us have that childhood hair tale or hair story that is that place where our own idea of ourselves hits up against the society's view of us. And somehow in that moment, we discover that they don't match. And then we have to work out why. And hopefully we don't take that on as it being about us, but we have somebody in our tribe and our circle around us that really gets to unpack that for us and explain that it's about the racism of the world or systemic issues or problems or people's unconscious biases or whatever those are. That was really moving to me in that process. And it's been very similar for me in my journey as a CEO with Pattern. You know, we are not a monolith, and we are so many different kinds of people, but you can look at the ways that we're different, or you can stay connected to the ways that we're the same. And, you know, the Pattern mission is to exceed the needs of the curly, coily, and tight textured community. But the other half of that is the most important part to me, which is to center the celebration of Black beauty. And that's so much of what the show is really about centering the celebration of our beauty. So I don't know if that answers your question, but for some reason that's what came out.
There a particular kind of interviewer that really resonated with you when you was
of the people I spoke to?
Yes, the people you spoke to.
I think, you know, I loved all of the conversations that I had, and it was really interesting for me in the interviewing process, because I know all of those women, but I was having a very intentional conversation that was very different than the kinds of conversations I've had. So particularly, like, for example, with Marseille, to give her a space to have an intentional conversation about her own hair journey, and where some of her beliefs and understandings came from her parents and her grandmother on both sides, you know, was like a really special thing to unpack. And for me, also Chica, I've always been an admirer of Chica, but the way she expresses herself, her use of language was really incredible to me. And of course, you know, she's a poet, she's a rapper, so I understand that. But when you're in conversation, I'm not expecting necessarily that the poetry is going to be coming out in just conversation, and it really, really did. But then I think the thing, I feel like I should read you some of the quotes from my document because it was so amazing to me. But like Elle Moxley, let me see if I can find this one because this really moved me. She like every episode, I was like, this woman is the way she articulated things. For me, it was like, these are things I felt, but I had no idea how to, like, I don't know that I would have known to say it that way. I wonder if, yeah, here we go. This quote was really moving to me. I love that different hair moments bring me closer to my people, and those opportunities to be closer to my people brought me closer to myself, that I can actually be safe with my community. Anytime I get my hair done, I feel extreme joy and relief. And I felt like that actually, Kim, is a better version of me trying to answer what you said, what you asked me. It's that different hair moments that I have seen have brought me closer to my community. Those hairstyles that have inspired me, whether it's Solange or looking back at old pictures, those are the things that have brought me in closer connection to my legacy and my history, that I'm so grateful for. And those are some of the moments. Also, the other thing that keeps sticking out for me that I loved was Issa used an expression I'd never heard called hair believers. And it just really moved me. I just have never thought of naming those people who have helped me to learn to love my hair as hair believers. And that will stay with me outside of the show.
I'm Karan from Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. And you're my BFF in my head. I love the fact that hairdressers were featured in the community and the culture that are created within salons. And some of our beauty superstars were featured because I am one of them. I've been rocking with you since the Lyricist Lounge, and beauty was my first introduction to Black wealth. It was my first introduction to what it meant for a woman to be self-sufficient, educated. I was mentored by women who were in technical skill, entrepreneurship, and eventually became a national educator for the major manufacturers in this world, the biggest major manufacturers in this world, owning salons for over 30 years. How does this series speak to the economy of Black hair and how we contribute over $600 billion to this industry, but are still left out of the majority of the wealth in the marketplace.
You know, the Oprah episode, did you get to see that one?
No.
Okay, so the Oprah episode, we do a big historical backtrack through the economy of hair and how for Black women, it was one of the first places and ways that they could find their way outside of the household to actually gain finances. And that it was the beginning of women being able to get divorces, to actually have their own sense of wealth. And we talk about Madam C.J. Walker. And obviously, you know, in a 6-part series, you can't go into all of it. But we do try and touch on a lot of those things that give context to so much of who we are and so much of the spaces and the ways that we have been able, you know, if society is relegating us to this one little small space, like you're allowed to be in this area, but somehow we as Black women have been able to take that small limited real estate and be whole people in those spaces. And so we do talk about it a little bit, and I hope that, again, you know, this show is not supposed to answer every question. And I hope everybody feels like they have a sense of being able to see some of themselves there. And I think that's also part of what happens in our industry. There are so few of these stories, right? We have so few opportunities, which I hope we are continuing to change, that like you might not, each one has a pressure on it to do everything for everyone, and it doesn't always do that. My hope is that we can continue to support each other so that there can be more and more space opened, so that we can be telling all of the different kinds of stories. But in terms of the economy of hair, it is something I talk about in the work that I do with DEI stuff. And I really agree. I think a lot of what's happening is the pipeline is broken. So a lot of people have good intentions with the D and I, right? But the equity part of it gets lost. And part of what's happening in that equity space and that fundamental systemic change issue part of it is that the pipeline, so you say like we have to open up the pool, but the standards for hiring are still matched up, that they don't match up with people who have had not the same access and not the same opportunity. So it's like you want to change the idea that you're hiring over talent, not over these boxes being checked. So there's a lot of pieces to it, I think. And I don't think the show will answer all of them, but I do agree with this stat that you just put out there that's really important. And not only the number, but the economy of hair and what it has done in terms of the agency for Black women.
Thank you so very much. I'm just so grateful that you included us as a hairdresser. I really appreciate the fact that you included the culture, not just the subject itself. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A lot of that was Michaela Angela Davis.
Love her too.
Yeah.
Love Michaela. Love Michaela.
What's not to love?
Tracy, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And Gil, I just want to say again, like every time I get to come and join you guys, it's a really special part of the press junket journey. But then to come and sit, I mean, obviously there are a lot of journalists and people of color that are in the, you know, the other things, but when to come here and do this in this way is always really special. I think this is maybe like the 4th or 5th time that I've been able to be with you.
Yes,
I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your support and your questions and what you guys are doing out in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you again. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you for watching this episode of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Absolutely.